An ancient artifact known as the Roman Dodecahedron remains an enigma to this day. Even though the first one was found in 1739, nearly 300 years ago, it is still one of the rarest and least understood items attributed to the Roman Empire. So far, around 130 have been discovered, primarily across the gallo-roman regions, most being found in where we know in the modern day as France and Germany, with others also being found in neighbouring countries ranging between Great Britain and Hungary. None yet have been found in Italy, Spain, Greece, or further south of the Mediterranean, and these would be the locations that you would expect them to be found if they were widely used across the Roman Empire. All of them are dated to between the 1st and the 4th century. They've been discovered in a range of different places such as Roman military camps, public baths, temples, tombs, and there have been no ancient writings or images discovered of these objects currently. So what they could have been used for is a mystery archaeologists and historians are still trying to put together to this day. Let's have a deeper look into the design and the proposed uses of these mysterious artifacts, and see if any new ideas or even possible links or evidence present themselves to you. We'll start with a description of their design and what they have in common with each other. They all possess 12 sides, as the name dodecahedron implies. They are hollow. Every side is a pentagon, with each of these pentagonal faces featuring a hole that varies in size around the object, usually incrementally, but often multiple holes would be the same size as each other, showing no standardized reason for the different hole sizes. And every corner where the pentagons join features a protruding knob. They were made from a copper alloy, primarily bronze, so they would have needed to be crafted by a skilled metal worker due to the material working and the complex design. The ones discovered range greatly in size. The smallest ones measure around 4 centimeters in diameter, which is about the size of a golf ball. A medium-sized one can be between around 5 and 7 centimeters in diameter, which is about the size of a tennis ball or a baseball. And the largest ones found are up to 11 centimeters in diameter, which is about a 50% larger diameter than a baseball. No dodecahedron is identical. Every one discovered is a different size and has different sized holes, as we can see in this research paper from 1993 where 36 of them and their holes were measured. A post on Reddit lists the hole measurements for each one from the paper more clearly, and most of them have multiple holes of the same size, so there doesn't appear to have been any uniformity or standardization when it comes to the size of the features. But the fact that they all have 12 faces with varying sized holes and all feature these knobs where the corner of the faces join does seem to strongly suggest a common use for that type of design. The amount of metal used as well as the craftsmanship points to them probably being quite expensive, so there's a possibility we don't find them in abundance, as many of them may have been smelted down at a later date for making other metal objects. So what could they have been used for? There are many proposed ideas. Some have suggested symbolic uses such as religious artifacts, or even possibly for use in an ancient game of some sort. But as they've never been found depicted in any painting or text to suggest these ideas, we just don't know yet. Or did it have a practical common purpose as some sort of tool or aid? If it was used for something practical, however, then all aspects of the design would ideally have a purpose. So let's go over some practical ideas that people have suggested, starting simple and ending with a few that actually used most, if not all, aspects of the design of these objects. But just because something can be used in some way doesn't mean that's what it was originally designed for. As wax was found inside a couple, some have suggested them to be used as candle holders. Although this seems highly unlikely to me. It could technically be used like that as it stands up and has holes, but I could also technically eat soup out of a helmet, or drink from a shoe like this gentleman for a more familiar example. Some have hypothesized it to be an astronomical measuring instrument for determining the optimal sowing date for winter grain. There's a whole page I found going deep into how this could work, but it's quite complex, and a simple sundial could be set up to do the same job far easier. So this also seems highly unlikely, as the design seems way too elaborate for this simple purpose. It's also been suggested to be a rangefinder or surveying tool, where a distance could be estimated by looking at a target through the holes, which could technically be done if calibrated by measuring something at a known distance, but the same could be achieved with 1 or 2 holes and some calibrated markings. And it's also been suggested the knobs could have twine wrapped around them to keep relative distance from the holder, but this still seems unlikely as you could do the same with a simple notch or peg in the ground, plus the lack of any standardised size of these objects goes against these notions. A proposed use I found on Reddit which seems to be a bit more practical is that first it could be used to process fibres by pulling a bunch through the incrementally smaller holes, making the fibres finer with each pass, which may have a similar effect to the method shown here. But this would be a much more compact device allowing someone to do this in a room. Then he shows you could make the threads by tying around the knobs and spinning fibres together. Then the threads could be fed through different holes and the entire dodecahedron could be spun to help make string. So these different stages of use appears to be one of the more plausible suggestions so far. One of the most popular hypotheses seems to be for the purpose of knitting gloves. There's quite a few videos out there of people successfully knitting gloves using these objects. The diameter ranges of the objects could potentially be for different sized hands from children to adults. And although knitting isn't thought to have come around until centuries later, sewing and weaving goes back long before the Romans, so many people understood the concept of crossing fibres in different ways to create linens for sheets and clothing. However, the different sized holes on the pentagonal faces wouldn't serve much of a purpose, as the tubular diameter for fingers is more determined by the distance between the corner knobs. So this use still raises questions to the purpose of the varying sized holes. A video I also found quite interesting and uses all aspects of the object design including the varying sized holes is demonstrated on the Amy Gaines YouTube channel. I'll provide a link in the description below if you would like to check it out for yourself. She demonstrates the potential use of the dodecahedron for making jewellery chains, where it starts similar to the concept of glove knitting, except with gold wire to make the jewellery with, where the dodecahedron would be held using a stick or rod through opposing holes for support and wrapping, and the thicker the rod, the looser the chain would be. She demonstrates making 2 chains using a thick rod and a thin rod in the video to show her results on each. The gold wire would be woven using the knobs as a guide and wrapped around the rod until the desired length is reached. Now here comes the interesting part. When the woven tube is complete, it's fed through and pulled through the increasingly smaller holes incrementally, forcing the weave to compress each time. And when finished, it results in a dense chain that could be used for a necklace or bracelet, for example. Practice and technique would play a part in how neat and consistent the chain ends up, and a skilled metal weaver could utilise a thinner rod for a tighter, neater weave. But I found this demonstration extremely interesting and is definitely one of the best suggestions I've seen, especially that it uses all aspects of the design of a dodecahedron. The last use I'll be showing is a different and quite interesting hypothesis proposed by Matt Geevan on his YouTube channel. Link will be in the description to his relevant videos if you would like to watch them in full, but he shows how this device could potentially be used as a deciphering tool, allowing secure communications to be used at the time of the Roman Empire. I'll show some relevant clips from his videos so you get an idea of the method.
Please note that the W does not exist in the classical Latin alphabet. The letters J, U and W were not present until much later in history. I checked where the coding cipher wheel needs to fit on the dodecahedron. Next, I placed the plain text wheel on the dodecahedron with the star at the starting point. As you can see, the plain text wheel is simply made to fit all 12 faces of the dodecahedron and consists of the 23 letters of the classic Roman alphabet in alphabetical order, plus the 2 null characters. The coding cipher wheel also has 23 letters of the classic Latin alphabet, spread randomly around the wheel, plus the 2 null characters, making a total of 25 characters also. The purpose of the 2 null characters fulfills a number of purposes to keep the 2 coding wheels in register. The first null, you will see, is the diamond with the dot, and this helps to conceal double letters such as double T and double E in the message, as you will see. The second null, which is a star, gives us an initial starting position for the two coding wheels. Checking that the two wheels are in the correct starting position, we can now start to encode the message, and we need to move the coding cipher wheel one place clockwise after every word has been encoded. The code is written on a simple wooden tablet, similar in size and shape and material to the Vindolanda tablets. We can now start encoding the message to Decimus. H is O. A is T. I is G. The encoding is now complete, and all we have to do now is to prepare the message for sending to Decimus. Here is a close-up of the encoded message, and you can see that it is completely unintelligible. The encoded message is now placed into what can only be described as a wooden cartridge or envelope. You'll notice the hole in the wooden message board, which I will explain the function of this to you presently. The message now has to be sealed, so I want you to imagine that I'm pouring hot molten wax into this area. We now take the dodecahedron, complete with the existing coding wheels, and we place it into the hot molten wax to form an imprint. As you can see, the molten wax has taken a perfect imprint of the bottom hole on the dodecahedron, including the two concentric circles in this instance. The hot molten wax has now dried, and the message is fully sealed in the wooden envelope because the wax has penetrated the hole in the wooden message, sealing it to the back of the envelope, and we can now send this message to Decimus. Well, first of all, in examining the message, I can see that the wax seal is still intact. This tells me that no one has seen or copied the contents of the message, so I know that the message is still secure between the sender and the receiver. I reach for my coding equipment, and using the dodecahedron, I need to ascertain which hole fits the wax seal accurately. I now put my plain text wheel in place. I now search for the coding wheels that fit the top hole accurately. I can now break the seal and remove the message. As you saw, the second purpose of the hole in the message board was to assist in removing the message from the cartridge. Because coding keys, keywords or passwords are not required with this system, it is very easy and quick to start decoding the message, remembering to move the code wheel one place after decoding each word. O is a H, T is an A, G is an I, F is an L. New word, move one space. You can see where the first null is used twice in the message. It just needs to be substituted for the previous letter. You can see that the whole system is basically very simple, using things that could easily have been made from wood, that could easily and quickly be destroyed or burnt in the nearest brazier, all except the dodecahedrons that have survived to this day.
He also backs up the potential idea showing some ancient wooden discs on display that are a similar size to some of these objects, with holes which may have been arranged pentagonally like he conducts in his demonstration. He also accounts for the wax finding in a dodecahedron, showing what he believes to be a practical reason to imprint the appropriate hole size into sealing wax for deciphering. This was another suggestion for the use of these artifacts that I found very interesting and thought-provoking, especially as it uses every single aspect of the design. If these dodecahedrons were practical and used for something like one of the hypotheses I've shown in this video, then I still wonder why they have only been found around the gallo-roman regions and are not much more widespread. There was a Icosahedron discovered which features similar knobs on the corners, but apart from that similarity, it's a completely different design and has 20 sides. There were, however, some gold dodecahedrons discovered around Southeast Asia that look extremely similar and are attributed to centuries earlier, around the 3rd to the 1st century BCE, but they are tiny and just mainly appear to be jewellery. Plus, they don't seem to have varying hole sizes like the large bronze ones. There's still a possibility we will find more in other regions and perhaps even stumble across some writings or art that more clearly infers their intended design. But until then, their original intended function will remain an enigma. So what do you think? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Well, thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe, like and share this video. If you'd like to help support my research and projects, please consider joining my Patreon or become a channel member here on YouTube. Have an amazing day and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care of yourselves out there.